Okay, we are now up and recording, and attendees should be coming in shortly. In the meantime, I am going to move Rode to a co-host, and I'm going to move Kyle to a co-host position. And let me see what attendees have come in. Brockton Community Access. That works.
There's Peggy.
There's Peggy. Ruby, can you hear us at least, or can you?
I can
speak?
hear you guys, but I don't know what's going on with the video, and it's, I mean, I see the camera's lights on. I don't know.
Well, I think we're gonna work with
Hold
you off camera if that's okay with everybody.
Yeah, I'm gonna still try and see if I can get it to display. Just I'll be in the background just trying to figure this out because
Sure thing.
I did a video call literally 2 hours ago, so I don't know why this is doing this.
Steve, go ahead, calling my phone. I have
We have 3 members. Does that give us quorum?
It does.
Yep. Yes, it does.
Hello,
You
Peggy.
have to count.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Ruby, how have you been?
Working like a fool, I can tell you that.
Retirement is lovely. Not to rub it in or
Rub
anything.
it in.
Don't rub it in.
Hello, Isaiah, too. And hi, Kyle.
Has everybody met Kyle?
No.
We've had no introductions,
Everybody,
sir.
Kyle, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
Kyle
Happy to be
Hi,
here.
is the
Kyle.
new conservation agent, started last week, and oh, yes, please. And I wonder if I should make BCA host and me co-host, and that might work, and see if we can stream the meeting. But in the meantime, while we're trying to figure that out, let us get the meeting started.
I just received a message. Ask Rob May for permission to record to my device. What does that mean? I've never received that before. Here's your request.
Oh, Joyce is asking for permission.
I don't want to record.
Okay.
BCA
I'll deny it.
would be.
Boom. There you go. I think it might be BCA that was looking. Who, I don't see it in chat. So, Madam Chair.
Yes. Shall
the
we
time
open?
is now.
Okay, I see that it is currently 6:35 p.m. on April 25th, 2023. This meeting was postponed from Wednesday, April 19th, 2023. At this time, I call the meeting of the Brockton Conservation Commission to order. This meeting is being conducted remotely in accordance with extension of the governor's order, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20. Real-time public participation and comment can be addressed to the Conservation Commission utilizing the Zoom virtual meeting software for remote access. If you wish to comment during a public input portion of a hearing, please use the raise your hand function to be addressed at the appropriate time. For those joining by phone only, please press *9 to raise your hand. A copy of this recording will be posted on the city's web pages. All votes will be done via roll call to ensure count accuracy. Please note that the discussion of agenda items should be limited to 15 minutes each to ensure timely progress through the agenda. We'll start with a roll call, please. If each commissioner could please announce that you are here with both your first and last name so that we can establish quorum. We might as well do it alphabetically. Ruby, are you on?
I am, but I'm struggling with video and I've logged out and logged in like twice. So I'm Ruby Clay and I am present.
Thank you.
Peggy Curtis, present.
And Joyce Voris present. So we have 3 out of 4, therefore we do meet quorum. The first announcement is that there is a continuance. The continuance is for 455 Oak Street, which was an amended order of conditions for a parking lot and drainage improvements at the Fuller Craft Museum. That's been continued to May 23rd. Does anyone have any questions?
I was going to also add that we did get 2 recent continuance requests today as well.
In addition to that,
Yes. Yep.
and what were they?
They are the Pleasant Street notice of intent. So that one was a new filing. And so that hearing has not actually been opened yet. But they are requesting to be heard at the May meeting.
But they're not on this agenda.
They are on the agenda. We just haven't officially opened the hearing yet because it's a new one.
Okay.
And then we also have 940 Belmont Street requested a continuance as well. To, I believe it was the next meeting.
Okay, 940 Belmont. And Pleasant Street was the one that just said Pleasant Street, I believe, right? Was that the
Yep,
one?
yeah, yep,
There
just
was no
Pleasant
address
Street, yep,
number. Yeah.
correct,
Okay.
yep.
Okay. So those are all continued.
Yep.
To May. Okay. May will be a busy meeting.
Yeah, that will.
Thank you. Then the first item on the agenda then will be the meeting minutes. There's a motion. Could I have a motion, please, to accept the minutes from March 15th, 2023? Peggy or Ruby, you're both muted. Either one.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the 3:15 meeting.
Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Clay, I.
Curtis, I.
Laura's aye. The minutes are accepted. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is 30 Oak Street Extension. This is a discussion
Yeah.
only, correct? Okay,
Yep.
Elise, if you could summarize that, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So 30 Oak Street Extension, basically the planning department received a request for somebody to come out and review some marked trees on the property to see if they would be something that could be removed, or if they would have to file, or kind of what situation that would require. So I went out on March 22nd and I observed there was 4 different trees that were marked. 2 of them were in the riverfront area. And although they were dead, still important habitat, and where it was observed that there was no clear safety concern or danger in that regard, I did not give a recommendation that those ones could be removed. And then the next 2 are within buffer zone to bank, and they might be within some bordering land subject to flooding, but regardless, they were trees that could be removed if a RDA was filed. So I did kind of let them know that. However, when I was out there, I did observe violations of the Wetlands Protection Act. So that was inclusive of some debris and pea stone piles that were kind of around the corner of the parking lot and within buffer zone to the bank of Leavitt Brook, potentially within the riverfront area, potentially within the floodplain as well. So I had sent a notice of violation, basically requesting that they remove those piles, that they seed the area and restore the area, and that they, the owner or the representative, attend the meeting to kind of discuss with us about what had gone down, what had occurred at the site. There was also a poured concrete slab under a dumpster that was kind of at the corner of the parking area there. I was not sure if that was a more recent item or not, but that was kind of another item that we wanted to discuss. So I'm not sure if perhaps the property owner, representative, or anybody is here. I do believe they received that notice, as we did get a return green card on that one for certified mail.
Before we check that, could you explain for the public what an RDA is?
Sure thing. So it is a
Thank you.
request for determination of applicability. And so that can be used for a variety of different situations. Usually it's more often used with buffer zones, but it's basically allows sometimes either tree removal, work like that, without having to get an official permit. It's kind of a way of saying, you know what, you are working within resource areas, but you have or are planning to take the appropriate measures not to impact those resource areas. So it allows for the work with a less intense permitting process.
Without having to go through a whole NOI and all of that. Is
Yes,
that
yeah,
correct?
there wouldn't be a full order of conditions at the end of it. It would just be a determination.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mhm.
Rob, is there anyone, or whoever the co-host is there anyone here to speak for anyone from 30 Oak Street Extension? Do you know?
I
you know
do not know. I've got a Bruno Silva with their hand up. I don't know if that's the applicant or just a
Think
concerned
that
citizen.
might be associated with 803 Crescent Street, further down on the agenda. I'm not sure though.
Okay, hang on. I will try to chat with him. Oh, hand came
Okay.
down. Okay. All
Is there
right.
anyone present?
I do not.
Is there anyone present for 30 Oak Street Extension? If you could raise your hand. Elise, do you have any idea when the green card was returned?
I'm not too sure if Isaiah or Road has remembers maybe when it was received. I know we sent out the notice. I believe it would have been late March. So at least a few weeks ago. With that said, it's kind of up to the commission if they would like to give the owner another chance to come back at the next meeting, if you want to escalate the situation, or kind of what the commission's thoughts are on this. As
We
far as moving-
receive it on the 19th.
Okay,
Of the 19th of April?
Yes.
Oh, that wasn't that long ago then, huh? But that was the date of the
Since-
last.
Yeah, since the meeting was rescheduled, I'm
Yeah.
not sure if that might be a reason as to why they're not
Yeah.
here today.
Commissioners, Ruby, Peggy, have any feeling?
I mean, maybe you go ahead, Kev.
I don't have a reason not to continue to the next meeting and give them a chance to answer our question about the concrete slab under the dumpster, whether that's something new, and what their reasoning is for removing the 2 trees. As it states in the letter, that's one of them is not doing anything and it's adding to the environment. The other 2, I could see a possibility because they're leaning towards the dumpster. But since this is the first time we've heard about it, I think it would be okay for us to continue that to the next meeting.
Ruby?
I agree.
Okay, that sounds fine. Okay, that's fine. So we will extend, should we extend a phone call perhaps?
I could either send just kind of another courtesy letter, just requesting that they attend the May meeting, or I could see, not sure where I would find a phone number per se. I believe it's like an apartment complex. That said, I could definitely make an effort to reach out again to them.
Sometimes I think a personal phone call is actually a little bit more effective.
Yeah,
I think.
I'll see what I can find on that.
Okay,
Madam Chair,
yes,
if I could ask that the commission continue that to a date certain, which is the next agenda, next meeting date, and I'm hoping somebody can remind me what that date is, because
May
The
13th.
23rd.
Oh, 23rd.
Yeah, it was rescheduled, I believe. As
Yep.
someone can confirm. Okay, perfect.
right, right. So that would mean that we would ask that person, that whoever, someone from that complex to appear on the 23rd,
Correct.
right, to address the
Yep.
concerns. You know, it's difficult because they're trying to do the right thing to come forward and say, okay, we need to cut these down. And then when
Yes.
you go out there, if you find something that's actually a problem, then you don't want to issue an enforcement order for something.
Exactly.
They were trying to do everything the right way
Yeah.
anyway. So, yeah,
Yeah, that's what we're kind of trying to solve it without that before. Yep.
course.
absolutely.
of course. Okay, so commissioners, is that okay with you? Just that we will
I
continue.
make a motion that we continue to the May 23rd meeting and have a letter sent out reiterating the stipulations that Elise has already outlined.
Okay,
Clay seconds the motion.
okay. I don't know if we need a vote on
I
that.
don't necessarily know, but
We can
can't
vote for
hurt.
it anyway. Let's
yeah.
vote. Okay, the motion's been made and seconded that the commission matter for 30 Oak Street Extension be continued to May 23rd on that motion. May I have a vote, please?
Clay, I.
Curtis, I.
Vora's side. Then that has gone forward then. Thank you. It's been accepted. Okay, number 3, another commission matter is 35 Westwood Avenue, order of conditions expiration. And
Yeah,
Ms.
so
Morris,
this is,
Brett?
I kind of just wanted to add this on the agenda just as a quick reference. Basically, we received a letter that regarding the 35 Westwood Avenue order of conditions. It was set to expire October 4th, 2022. But based on the joint guidance for permitting that occurred basically during the state of emergency, the guidelines allow 462 days of an extension from the old expiration date. So, you add 462 days, you get a new expiration date, which for them would be January 9th, 2024. The reason I kind of also wanted to make sure that the commission was aware is just that, we might be seeing more of these. I'm not sure if you've seen this in the past, but just kind of want to let you know that we did receive that letter, that they are correct with their expiration date. And there's, unless you have any comment, nothing specific required. Just wanted to make you guys aware.
Okay. Commissioners, any
Quick
comments? Or-
question, is this a case that Eric Diaz is working on?
See.
Yes.
Yes.
Good point. Yep.
Okay, he's got his hand up. I'm gonna
Ooh.
allow him to talk.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello, Eric. Mr. Diaz, how are you?
I'm very good. Thank you for taking the time to hear this. 2 things. One, I just wanted to announce that I was here in case anybody had any questions. But more importantly, I think my question is simply, the project is currently under construction and my client needs to get a sign off on a building permit. So I am assuming that if the commission is in agreement with our interpretation of the joint guidance, and we all agree that the permit is still active, then they would be able to receive that sign off, no problem. Is that?
I would have to be perfectly honest, just look into the specifics of this order. This might be something that is worth kind of just sending a follow-up email just to make sure that, we can kind of look at the specifics of it just to make sure, so I don't quote you kind of an incorrect answer on that.
Sure.
Sorry, I know that might
No.
not be too helpful, but yeah, absolutely follow up with us on that.
Nope, that makes perfect sense. It's chaos over here. I'm sorry. Of course, they
No
wait
worries.
until I'm on. I will send the follow-up email tomorrow and we can hash out the details from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
And is this also something that we are continuing?
Nope, doesn't require anything. Just
Doesn't
a
require
note.
it. Okay,
So we will
Thank you all very
determine whether
much.
we are not continuing the decision to accept the extended expiration date.
No,
right?
there's no continuances or anything
Yeah.
required. It's only
Yeah.
required when there's a public hearing. This is just kind of an informal discussion. And we will follow up with Mr. Diaz tomorrow, kind of regarding his other question on the permit.
Okay. As far as permitting. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. The next discussion item is the Blackledge appeal. It's the Pleasant Street, Union Street, Easton, Brockton apartment complex.
Joyce and I attended the onsite that there was for DEP with the applicant and the appellant, and we kind of all had our big fun discussion. So that was on March 16th, the day after our March meeting. And essentially what it boiled down to, and Joyce, feel free to add anything, but we're basically, the applicants are putting in monitoring wells as requested by the Easton Conservation Commission. So they have put those in. They're still waiting on some information relating to that. DEP is kind of on hold, as far as I am aware, kind of on their decision-making, waiting for more information, and then they'll kind of let us know. I do know that the applicant did respond to the Hill Law Appeal letter with their own letter, kind of reiterating that they are doing the monitoring wells and, more information will follow. So that's kind of the gist. We're basically still waiting.
It does sound like the applicant does not want DEP to issue a superseding order of conditions. But
It's
at
hard
the
to
same
say.
time, you can't really determine until the monitoring wells are done what will happen, I think. I know
Yeah.
that there was the Eastern Conservation Commission was supposed to hear it at their meeting last night. And
Right.
it was continued until the May
Okay.
22nd meeting. May 22nd meeting, because they're still waiting to get more data.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So I
apparently
bet.
what data they have so far isn't enough to make a decision.
Yeah, so they'll let us know, basically. We'll be provided with data as it comes from DEP or from the applicant. So we're still waiting at this point. That's all I got to offer you as far as Blackledge appeal.
And I do believe, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, Elise, that if it's found that the water table is just too high and they have to change, that if they have to change the plans, then those plans will have to come before us once again for an amended
Yeah.
order of conditions, and then we'd have to hear that.
Yeah,
more.
yep. It would be another public hearing process.
Yes.
Yep, absolutely.
Commissioners, any questions at all?
Nope, you just answered. That was what I was gonna ask. Would we have to, if any changes, would we have to do a whole nother public hearing on that? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Kyle, any questions or anything? Thank you. Okay. And let's see.
Do we need
Another
to make a
commission-
motion on that?
Nope.
No, I don't think
No.
so. There's nothing to do. Yeah,
Just an update. A good question.
yeah. Another commission matter is a 2023 sewer system rehabilitation project.
We might have skipped one. I
Oh,
believe.
the
Yeah,
enforcement order.
803.
I'm sorry. Absolutely.
Hey.
Number 5. Sorry.
Fine.
Enforcement order 803 Crescent, of course. Go ahead. Thank you.
So basically, this is the enforcement order that we had talked about previously. It was for paving that occurred beyond the existing limit of pavement that was within bordering land subject to flooding, and plowing of snow into Beaver Brook within that 25-foot riverfront area. So this was one that Ms. Shave had issued back in January. We had difficulty kind of contacting the owners. As the commission requested, I did give the owners a call on March 23rd, and I spoke to Mr. Silva And he had indicated that they had purchased the property recently, or actually in January, around the time that the enforcement order was issued. So we had basically issued the enforcement order to the previous owner, which is kind of why he had not received our efforts to reach out. So the phone call was kind of his first time being made aware of it. And so we had requested that he attend this meeting and to discuss. And I do also want to note that we amended the enforcement order to have the correct owner. So we will have to re-ratify that enforcement order at some point. We could do it now, or we could hear what the property owner, if he has anything to add, in case we want to add anything to or adjust anything within the enforcement order. So that's up to the commission on the order of ratification or property owner input.
I think the property owner input would be important first, and rather than having to change anything afterwards, so it would be better. So, Mr. Silva.
Yes, I believe I see it. Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Silva.
How you doing? How you guys doing?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
How are you?
Yeah, good. Received the notice, but I wasn't aware what's going on with the property. Actually, a little bit. They were supposed to stripe the property. That was a request for the so I wasn't aware the actual extension towards the Beaverbrook until the property. We purchased the property on the 6th,
Mr.
and
Silva,
my guy that usually
Mr. Silva, you're
Breaking up a little bit.
can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Yes. So the plowing of the snow that used to plow the snow in Dorchester for me, it wasn't much snow. We had to do a strike for the license commission, but unfortunately that day, so I asked my guy from Dorchester, he has no experience, so he came towards the river. Maybe it was a mistake. There was no snow after that. I'll not do that anymore, or have anybody just move it to the other side of the building. You know,
Mr. Silva, I'm a little, you mentioned
I don't know.
something about
I'm a little. You mentioned something about
stripes.
Yeah, they have on the parking lot. They have to put the lines.
Oh, yeah.
Was that parking area, the parking area that was of concern, Elise?
Yeah, so basically, Megan had observed that the area had been repaved recently. I'm not sure when exactly.
I'm not sure when exactly. Hold on, please. Hold on. There is a huge echo. Is everyone hearing this huge echo? Where are the technology people? Help. What was that from? Is it still
Mr.
there?
Silva has got his phone and computer or something is repeating on his end. If he could make sure that he mutes himself, and I've got him muted now. So Elise, you were in the middle of stating something?
Basically that the biggest concern from this was the parking area. So it was paved closer to the resource areas, closer to Beaverbrook than the existing condition. So it had kind of encroached. She did also notice the snow plowing. So I understand and appreciate his Mr. Silva's recognition of that. I think the bigger concern was the extension of the parking area that does require an after the fact filing.
So my understanding is if you have a lot of pavement, then the interaction between the water and the pavement changes what happens at the wetlands, right? At the resource area.
At the wetlands, right? At the resource area.
Mr. Silva, do you have
Yes,
both a phone
Mr. Silva, do you have both a phone
and?
I'm
your
not using my
computer?
phone at all. I'm
and
just on
your
my,
computer?
you might, let me move closer to the router. Is it better now?
It's great,
Yeah,
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
much better.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I spoke with the previous owner. He was telling me to move the gas. A lot of those pavement was damp. He fixed it. He fixed some portion that was legally on towards the back of it, towards the back of the building. 6 foot long, 8 to 10 feet wide. That goes across along.
I'm not sure that I understand. So that
I'm
a
not
six,
sure that
a 6 foot long by 8 foot
Yeah.
wide
6 foot long
pavement.
pavement.
Yeah, probably the portion actually paved. The other one was previously there. He just fixed it up. He told me, by my understanding, that's what I got from him. But it was just a gravel and the actual pavement. It was just gravel, so they put a little bit of asphalt on the top of it.
Which changes
That's
the
what he-
drainage. Yeah.
Just the drainage. Yeah.
Elise, would it be possible for you to go out and
Elise,
to
would it be
meet,
possible for you to go out and to meet?
or Elise and Kyle perhaps, to go out and meet with Mr. Silva to explain more clearly what the requirements are under the Wetlands Protection Act for that particular site? Would that be possible? So that way he would have a clear understanding?
absolutely. And perhaps, Mr. Silva, if you have maybe some either past photographs or something to kind of show and I mean, I'm not sure if you will, but if you do have maybe some past documentation or photographs or something from the previous owner that just shows kind of the previous limits versus what's there now. But, you know, we would be more than happy to kind of come out to the site and maybe have more of a one-on-one regarding the work that was done, what needs to be done, et cetera. Perhaps either via email or a phone call or something, we could kind of set something up behind the scenes.
Him for, yes, I can have, he has some documentation. I can ask him for that. I have the recent one. I have it here with me, actually.
Is that
Not
something
sure about
that,
the older one.
is that something that you could perhaps you know,
The-
either
the-
you could perhaps you know, either sorry virtually send along via email or something?
Yes. You mean now or afterwards?
Oh, afterwards.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yes, that's
And-
possible.
Okay, so Mr. Silva,
I'm gonna dig a little bit and see what I can find about what the board.
mhm,
But just in case, if we cannot find it, of this type of situation.
Mr. Silva, can you mute yourself for 1 minute, just so
Mr.
there's
Silva,
no
can you mute yourself?
feedback? Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So the question that I have is, was this particular site, since it's near a resource area, must have had an order of conditions at one time? Is that
Not-
correct?
Not necessarily. You know, it depends on when the lot was kind of constructed, depends on a lot of things. if it's older, it might have been before the Wetlands Protection Act. It could have just been something that kind of just had been occurring and no one was aware of it. There's a variety of reasons it might not have kind of gone through the processes we have now in the past. But I would suggest that perhaps Mr. Silva provide us with, any additional documentation he has. And if he's amenable to it, have us either kind of go out on site or maybe continue this conversation over the phone at another point when it might be a more productive conversation.
And I think it may be easier for Mr. Silva to visualize what's
Yeah.
important as far as wetlands if you're physically present. And I'm willing to go as well if you want, I'm willing to. It's not necessary, but if you want, I'm more than willing to go.
So Mr. Silva, is that something that basically we can give you a call, or if you send us an email, we can communicate that way as well?
Mr. Silva?
Is he, I don't know if somebody else has, oh,
There.
I was muted.
Oh, here you go.
I was muted, but yes, a wetland is something, I have an idea, right? But I'm not regulations. So now that I have get more knowledge, so I can better protect it.
Mhm.
Any suggestions? If you guys can visit, or if you guys just want to do it calls and emails, I can do that as well. But I'm willing to do takes to make things better,
yeah.
Since it is a resource area, I do believe that,
This area,
Yeah.
I do believe
I
that
do believe that a visit would be appropriate.
a visit would be appropriate.
And you can arrange that with
And you can arrange that.
Ms. Tripp and Mr. Holden?
Yes,
with
yes,
Ms.
yes, definitely.
Commissioners, do you have any
Do you have any?
concerns?
I found that I have missed probably 40% of what he said. So I'm lost as to what he understands, what he has conveyed to us as his understanding. So definitely a site visit is needed to
Mhm.
clarify what he's thinking and then what we need from him, because this was not productive at all. Sorry.
No worries.
Ruby?
Yeah, I agree the site visit to give him some clarity and also give him a opportunity, since he's a new owner. He inherited this from Mayor. So
Mhm.
I think it allows him
Yeah.
an opportunity to do what is right in regards to what we've been asking for in the enforcement order, since he is a new owner. So yeah, I think the site visit would work, the clarification on what the expectations are, and giving him an opportunity to correct, what we've been kind of trying to get done, since this is a third notice all this time. So
Mhm.
yeah.
And one of the major roles, I do think, of the Conservation Commission is education of the public about the importance of the wetlands and
Correct.
also how to work with that to make sure that we can maintain the integrity of the wetlands. Okay, so Elise and Kyle, you'll take it from here with Mr. Silva, correct? Good. Mr. Silva, are you okay with that?
You are muted.
Oh, yeah, you're muted. Mr. Silva, are you still there? You're muted.
Still there?
Oh,
You're muted?
yes, yeah, I'm muted now.
Okay,
That's okay with me. That's fine.
great.
Okay.
Okay,
Great.
I agree.
I'm sure we will learn more next
Thank
meeting.
you, everyone.
I'm sure we will learn more next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Silva.
Okay.
And then Before we move on, we just do have to ratify the amended enforcement order regarding this. For
Because
Mr.
of the
Silva.
different owner.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So I do entertain a motion to ratify the amended enforcement order for 803 Crescent to
I
reflect the correct
second.
owner. I'm sorry. Still hearing
I
echoes.
second.
Motion has been made and seconded. The vote, please.
Clay, I.
Curtis, I.
Loris, aye. So we've ratified the amended enforcement order. Thank you. Now we can get on to the 2023 sewer system rehabilitation project, correct?
Correct. So this one is also a discussion item, no motions or anything required. We just basically received notice from the DPW that they are undertaking a sewer rehabilitation project in a couple different locations across the city, some of which are within buffer zone to bank, as well as to bordering land subject to flooding. They did send us or send the commission a letter kind of as a courtesy, letting you guys know about the work. And it is exempt under the Wetlands Protection Act as a utility project. And they have employed erosion controls where possible and employed, trenchless technologies, the newer technologies to kind of make it as less invasive as possible. So just making the commission aware that we did receive that letter. Doesn't require anything additional unless the commissioners have any questions.
Ruby or Peggy, do
I
you have any
have a
questions?
Question, where is this occurring again? Is this over in the Bridgewater, Brockton area?
This is a different one.
Okay.
Elise, do you have the ability to share your screen to show that? Or Kyle?
I do. Let's see. So this one, it's kind of tough actually to share the screen on this one. This one has multiple different locations, so it's over a couple different pieces. So let me see.
See, Elmwood, West Elm, White Avenue, East Ashland, Calvary Cemetery, and
Yes.
West Main Street.
Yes. So there are a series of FEMA flood maps as well as kind of GIS screenshots showing the different areas.
Mhm.
So let's see. I can share my screen. You guys see that?
Mhm.
All right, so I know it's sideways and I don't know that I'm going to be able to turn it. Excuse my inability to use technology. But there are, so it's basically kind of spot areas, a couple longer sections. We have, let's see, a couple areas. This one might be within the bank area. And we also have.
That's
FEMA
near
flood.
Ellis Brett.
Hmm?
That's near the Ellis Brett Pond.
Oh, yeah, yep. So it's kind of a couple different locations. I think they said 8 were within jurisdictional areas. Everything else was just around. But so this is another one. It's all within existing roadway though. So yeah, I apologize. It's not a super helpful sharing on my end.
I'm curious as to who chose these streets and why they were chosen.
I think it's just out of kind of necessity. So it's repairing existing damaged infrastructure. So I think they probably did maybe a survey, kind of looked around and saw what areas either had cracks or something kind of similar to prevent any further damage or.
Are these
worse.
also the 100-year-old pipes or the sewer pipes that they were talking about earlier this year?
That's a great question. I'm not too sure. It doesn't say anything specific regarding that in the letter. It just says it is some sewer spot repairs 12 to 18 inches below the surface.
Mr. May, Is there a new sewer commission now? Is that correct? Or is this
There's a new stormwater commission. but
stormwater?
This is
commission?
all, this
Okay.
is sanitary sewer. So
Okay,
that's
so
different.
this is straight DPW.
Yes.
And
Thank
the
you,
regulations,
Louise.
I'm sorry, the regulations do state that if, well, they're exempt anyway because of utilities, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Right.
And they are doing, employing, basically the exemptions is as long as best management practices are employed, and they do have those employed. So that is, that.
Okay. I did have a very quick question, though. There was a mention in our last meeting that Peggy brought up about the East Bridgewater,
Yes.
the East Bridgewater one. And there was some mention there about whether or not an RDA should be requested of East
Yeah.
Bridgewater. What happened
Yep.
with that?
Yeah, so basically, the commission had asked a comment letter be sent. So unfortunately, the comment letter was not sent out within the time period. With that said, basically I kind of advised or suggested requesting an RDA. So the work that is proposed is exempt under the Wetlands Protection Act. I find, as far as for the commission's best interest, that requesting an RDA or something similar of that sort can just be a benefit as far as making sure that certain best management practices like erosion controls, et cetera, are employed. That said, they would be exempt under the Wetlands Protection Act. So
Even though it's a different community that's actually tapping into the resources.
yeah,
And
so the Wetlands Protection Act isn't as concerned about, because that was just the sewer installation. So it's as far as kind of in between the municipalities is less of an issue. So of course, each work within each municipality, would have to be approved for whatever work is in that municipality. The work that's occurring in Bridgewater does have to go to conservation. So they will be kind of going through the whole gambit. There's like much more extensive work that's occurring within resource areas. The quarter mile or so that is occurring within the roadway in Brockton is much less invasive. So they are still in their early phases. They haven't, the EENF is kind of a starting point more often than not before going to municipalities. Kind of a way to get comment and such. So apologies that was not sent out in time. On the plus side, it is not something that is going to necessarily result in unauthorized work, if that makes sense.
yeah, I just would love to make sure that they are doing it according to,
Yes.
required standards.
Yep. And that can be something that, I can kind of keep an eye on as they move through other approvals and kind of, get through the process. So if you like, I could kind of check in on that or still kind of, provide a notice or of sorts if the commission
Okay.
would like.
Yeah, that would be appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. Thank you. Peggy, Ruby? Again, this is all commission matter. Do you have any questions or anything, any comments at all about the East Bridgewater? I know it was kind of last month's agenda, but I know in the minutes there was mention of something
Nope,
else. so-
I'm good. Yeah, no, it
Okay.
makes sense. Yep.
Okay, good, thank you. Let's see. The
We
next one
need
would be,
to vote or anything on that matter? No, it's just.
no, I don't think so. It's just informational and it's,
Okay.
yep. And let's see, the next one is Pleasant Street, which has been continued, correct, to May
Yep.
22nd. So that one we don't have to worry about. Notice of intent. The next one is 940 Belmont Street, VA Hospital.
That one was also continued.
90 Oh, it
Continue
was.
to May.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. Oh, my goodness.
I know,
Well,
right?
that really shortens our agenda, doesn't it? Okay, good. Okay. That's been, it seems like that's been going on for quite some time.
Yes, that one on Belmont, Beta did do a third peer review relating to stormwater. So that was something that they had done. It is uploaded in the commission's drive, and I
Yeah.
believe that they are just working on responses to that.
Okay, yeah, because there were still some outstanding things there. that I had
Correct, yeah,
seen.
Beta's letter did note some outstanding stormwater concerns for
Yeah.
the most recent revised plans.
Okay, thank you. Then that will bring us to number 9, which is the enforcement order, notice of intent for Claremont Avenue, map 180-1042. So that was an enforcement order for that huge, I guess it was a, huge site.
Yes. I believe
So let's-
Mr. Grady is here for that as well.
I'm allowing Mr. Grady access.
Perfect.
Hear me now.
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Do you have video also, Mr. Grady?
Yeah. Yes. I don't see that I can screen. No. I don't see that the video button is available on the Zoom here.
Oh,
I
let
can
me-
screen share if you want, but I
hang
don't see
on,
that
let
either.
me- There you go. Promote
Okay.
to panelist.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Rob.
Okay, Mr. Grady, you should be, there you are.
Made it.
Hello, Mr. Grady. How are you?
Hi. Good. Thank you. How are you?
Fine.
I'll screen share real quick. That's okay. Let me see my screen here.
Yes.
Okay, great. So we've had a few meetings. The initial meeting, we went over the overall strategy of the site plan. Basically, we're going to remove any fill within the 25-foot buffer zone. We're going to restore that with plantings under a restoration plan that was prepared by South River Environmental. We're going to regrade the site, add a stormwater basin to infiltrate any runoff prior to reaching the resource area. We provided erosion controls around the perimeter. I've provided cross sections to show that we're removing the fill. See that in this section here, the existing line is fill. We're going to cut that back, install a drainage basin, and the berm is the backside of the drainage basin. So all this fill is going to get removed. There's a few different sections that I provided for you. Some details for stormwater. Beta has peer reviewed the stormwater and has signed off on that. At our last meeting, the commission wanted to do a site walk, which we did 2 weeks ago or so. Walked the site. We showed Joyce and Elise the processing that takes place here. Basically, this is a recycle processing site where asphalt and concrete and wood is basically processed and broken down for reuse, cleaned up. That's what it used to be. Right now, it's under a DEP consent order to remove all of the asphalt, brick, concrete. So that is underway, and everything that gets removed is being inspected under the consent order. And the last final comments from the last hearing, other than to do a site walk, was to add some notes to the plan, which we have added on sheet 1 here. Those notes were requested by the previous agent, and then also asked for a testing protocol, which I provided. And I provided this plan here as an exhibit. Basically, we're going to do soils testing throughout the 100-foot buffer zone. The testing protocol highlights basically the items that are going to be tested for any materials that are going to be left within the 100-foot buffer zone. That's what we plan on testing. That's a licensed LSP agreement. They're under their licensure to follow the state protocols and rules and regulations. Everything will be done appropriately in accordance with the regulations, laws, etc. The applicant is pulling out of this site. It's going to regrade it, grass it, bring it back to a more natural existence, and then hopefully we get a certificate of compliance, and that'll be that. Based on that, I think that's covers it, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Mr. Greta, could you put that sampling schedule back up again? I didn't have time
Sure.
to really, I mean, I had checked to see by the 19th because I thought this meeting would be on the 19th. I looked in the file and I didn't see anything as of that time. That looked like there was a sampling protocol present in the file.
Yeah, so I think I finally got this over yesterday. Of course, we had
Yesterday.
to coordinate with consulting engineers, now how slow they can be. And we finally just got
So
this,
Conoco.
between, yes. So we provided this to you. Basically, they're saying in here that they're gonna sample 4 different test pits. Within that test pit, they're gonna in each of those test pits, they're gonna visually inspect, and they're gonna pull samples, and they're gonna test for a bunch of chemical items. I'm not a chemical engineer. So TPH, VOCs, SVOCs, PCBs, TCLPs. This is the one time I'm happy there's acronyms. And reactive cyanide and sulfide. Oh, pH, I remember that one. That one I have.
I have a
So we'll,
question. Are there permits needed to do any of this work that you're describing?
I'm sorry, can I?
This is Peggy
Oh, sure.
Curtis. I'm a commissioner.
Yep.
I was asking if there are permits that are needed to do the testing and the removal and the
Yes.
movement that you're describing.
Yeah, so currently we're under a consent agreement, which is a permit with DEP to remove the material. And then if any of these chemicals are encountered, then they will follow the protocols under these methods that are highlighted here.
Mhm.
They will follow the required protocols. So the permits are basically the one we're under with DEP, the permit we're under with you, and then following the protocols for the licensed site professionals. So they are licensed in the state of Massachusetts to follow regulations, requirements, and methods.
And if I heard you correctly, you said you're only doing testing in the 100-foot buffer zone. So what about the rest of the property?
The commission has jurisdiction within the 100-foot buffer zone. So we are permitting with you. So therefore, we're providing you with assurance that any soils that remain here are clean. And we've done test holes in the
The
site.
reason why I'm asking that question is that if you only clean up the 100-foot buffer zone and the rest of the property is not, during the rains and leaching and things like that, would it be possible that any remains that are contaminants would leach into the 100-foot buffer zone if the rest of the property is not cleaned up?
So the site was filled with site fill and brought to grade. And then the materials on top are asphalt, brick, concrete. It's being tested continuously under DEP's watch. There's been no chemicals, materials. There's nothing that's indicated that there's chemicals that are toxic. Any of these chemicals have not been encountered to date. And we are doing a good cross-section for the commission, random cross-section within your jurisdiction to further prove that the material that's there is site fill, not toxic chemicals.
How deep will those test holes be?
So
Do you
we're
know?
going to, we're going to excavate down to, it says 12 feet. That should give us plenty of depth based on these cross sections. Hold on 1 sec.
But those berms are higher than that, right? I mean,
Yeah, but remember, we're stripping out a bunch. So we're going to strip it down to here,
okay,
and then we're going to dig down to natural occurring material. So we're going to dig through until we hit natural material and test that profile. So remember, we're taking all of this out, and we're not going to test anything until we get down to this elevation, the proposed elevation.
and when do you expect this to be done by?
So the DEP was supposed to get all the asphalt, brick, and concrete that's piled on the site out within 6 months. So that's supposed to be June. The rest of the site, I mean, typically there's an order of conditions for 3 years, but I think, you know, depending upon the timing of planting seasons, et cetera, it's hard to say. So I'd like to think they could have it stripped and down to grade and get that testing by the fall planting season. But if they miss it, we don't really want to, we'll have to wait till the following spring to try and time that. Otherwise, they're moving quickly over there to remove the stockpiles.
I personally feel as though we've just received the that requested soil testing protocol, and personally, I don't feel comfortable with closing, but I'm not sure how anyone else feels, or
I'd like to know more about the timeline. Is the property removing these materials by selling them, or are they removing them by dumping them somewhere else?
They're removing them from your jurisdiction. And they are following DEP's approval or their consent order. DEP has ordered them. And I believe that came about through the city's urging and various permitting layers. That
So
kicked in
what
DEP.
what testing and permitting has been done to date, and what's the timeline on that?
So currently the DEP has a consent order to have the stockpiles removed within 6 months. I believe that ends in June. And they have an LSP requirement within their consent order. So that licensed site professional is inspecting the materials and looking for anything that appears to be a potential hazard source. And that's just part of their procedure, and there's been nothing flagged to date. So basically, they're also doing is crushing concrete, brick, and asphalt at this point and removing it.
So why is it taking so long to do this? Why till June?
It's a
So,
massive site.
yeah,
It's a massive site.
if you are on the site, you could see that they're really moving pretty fast considering the
Mhm.
volume of materials.
And what kind of protections are being taken when they remove the materials? Are there any needed? Are they going onto dump trucks and then brought to a DEP approved place?
Correct.
Or is that not out of
Quick
our
question.
Mr. May?
I believe this may be outside of your jurisdiction.
is.
Yeah,
As
Yeah,
wetlands,
it's
so-
outside of the wetlands part. Yeah.
Yeah. Our
agree.
jurisdiction is really, it relating to this is just relating to the enforcement order for the areas within 100 feet of the bordering vegetated wetlands.
Right.
So we did receive that, as Mr. Grady said, he did provide the 2 agent comments that was requested from Ms. Shave's last agent report, and they did also provide the fill management plan that was requested by Ms. Shave, and that was provided yesterday. So, that's at the commission's discretion as far as how comfortable they feel with having had time to review it. I will say that they have provided all of the requested material at this point. However, understandably, the time to review it is up to the commission, but I did want to share that with you.
Mhm.
I am going to ask both this applicant and any future applicants that if they have reports that require the commission's attention, that they be delivered no less than 10 days before the commission meeting. So make sure that the commissioners have an opportunity to read and digest that information.
At least a week. Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Understood. I got it to you as soon as I obtained it.
Sure, that's fine. I'm just making a blanket statement here.
Yep.
You're not the only one.
That's appreciated. Really. Okay. Ruby, do you have any questions?
Yeah, so for me, I would like to review the documentation that was provided. So maybe we move this to the May 23rd meeting or something, so
Continue.
that we have to, continue, so that we have the appropriate time, that's like Rob just said, to go over what and digest it and come up with any questions or concerns we may have with what we have, so that we can move along properly.
I just have one additional question too, just because of this whole concept of a soil testing protocol, with a schedule. And that's fine, but what happens if during your fulfillment of that protocol and while you're following that schedule, what happens if you do find things that are hazardous? Then does that information come to the commission, or are you just legally held responsible to make sure that you take care of that? And we just assume, just say, for example, we said, okay, we're going to close it and we're going to, sign off on an order of conditions, enforcement order is done.
Yep. The
How does that
LSP
work?
the LSP is under licensed requirements to follow EPA, DEP, and chain of custody protocols. They need to what's the word I'm looking for? To basically
If there is a
report it. They have to report it.
reportable event.
Yeah,
Yeah.
report. Thank you.
And they would, okay. I'm sorry, I just have never come up with this before as something to consider, so it's
Sure.
completely an
Sorry.
educational opportunity for me.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. I do believe too that we should be able to open this up for public comment if the commissioners feel like they've had their questions answered.
Yeah.
Okay,
I do just want to add to, I'm not sure if the commissioners saw that we did get a email from Miss Lisa Crowley that was added into our commission's drive, just to make the commission members aware that that is in there.
when did that go in? I didn't.
It was only a couple hours ago. It was this afternoon.
okay.
she added it.
Yeah,
Okay.
correct.
But
I
for
didn't
any
have a chance to
further
see that.
review, that's in there for your consideration as well.
Okay. Okay. So we will now take comments from the public. Use your raise a hand function to be acknowledged. When it's your turn to speak, state your name for the record. Make sure that the comments are limited to the Wetlands Protection Act, and please keep your comments to just 5 minutes if you wish to speak.
I have a Miss Lisa Crowley who would like to speak. Ms. Crowley, you should be able to
Yes,
unmute your
hi.
microphone.
Am I on? Can you hear me?
You're on.
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Thank you all for your hard work on this. Yes, I got my letter in a couple of hours ago, and it's mostly about the 8-foot access that is being proposed for this project it sounds like the convenience of Mr. Rukas and dealing with this wetlands issue. I'd like to know more about that 8-foot access, as well as I wrote my letter to illustrate and outline all of my concerns for any kind of access other than the Howard Street gate. This environmental atrocity was created coming in and out of that Howard Street gate, and we don't need any more trucks going down Claremont. Some of the commission members may not be aware, but after the cease and desist orders prevented Mr. Rukas from using the Howard Street gate, he went out the emergency exit with massive pieces of equipment on these little teeny roads out of Sprague and Gay. Little kids almost got run over by these dump trucks, cranes,
Ms. Crowley,
timber. It's
Ms. Crowley,
yes.
Ms. Crowley, I'm sorry, but that's really outside of the jurisdiction of the Wetlands Protection Act. It's perhaps a traffic commission or.
No, it's
Um,
part of his proposal to create some kind of 8-foot access to make this so much more convenient. So what
I
is?
believe it was
8-foot
required
access?
to be able, I believe it was required to be able to get access to the wetlands area that's going to be restored, I believe. I thought that's what the plans had said. And it was going to be a grassy area to be able to provide access to the wetlands area that needs to be restored. That was my understanding. Elise or Kyle, if you know.
That was
or-
my understanding as well.
Yeah, that was actually something that was requested by Beta for in the stormwater review to also allow kind of access for maintenance of the stormwater basins and the like, but it is a vegetated area. And I'm not sure if anyone else on the commission has anything to add, but perhaps Mr. Grady would also like to add relating to that question, if that's
Sure.
okay with you, Chair.
So Elise, yes, that Beta in their peer review required that 8-foot access way for maintenance purposes of the basin and for maintenance of the 25-foot no disturb zone. It needs to grow in if some of the plants don't take, we need to be able to get in there in a reasonable manner and replant them. So I think that was the thought process. That was not a request by the applicant.
Okay, that's good to know. But will Mr. Rukas have access to that vegetated roadway to bring in dump trucks, cranes, timber, anything else? What is that to be used for? Because you can fit a dump truck in an 8-foot way.
I don't think
You-
things
you
are
want
coming
me-
in. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Kevin.
Yeah, that's within the buffer zone, and it would be within the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction to shut that down immediately. The 8-foot access doesn't go to anywhere. Basically, it goes to Howard Street entrance and back. It doesn't go out to Claremont. And again, that's within the conservation's jurisdiction. They can enforcement order that instantly if it was used in the wrong manner.
We have other, oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Crowley, we're close to your 5 minutes, but I'll go over
Well-
just a little if you have some more.
No, that's very helpful because the way it came across in the plans, it seemed as if it was going to be an access road out to Claremont. So no, I'm happy that it's not. Thank
Good.
you.
Good, Lisa. Good. Are there any other attendees that would like to speak to this issue?
Ms. Lasso would like to speak or had her hand up. So Ms. Lasso, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
I did. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. How is everyone?
Fine, thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to hold this meeting after all of the delays that we've been going through and experiencing, and my friends and neighbors living through this nightmare. I'm very concerned about everything that's going on here, but most importantly, allowing that 8-foot entrance in Claremont. I get that was requested or suggested by the Beta Group, but are they taking into consideration, first of all, what's happening to all the people that are living in this area? And second of all, have they done a structural integrity test on the street to make sure that the trucks and the equipment can be handled by that street? I know that there was a report on the streets of Brockton where many of the streets in Brockton, and especially those little teeny side streets over in that neighborhood, don't have the structural integrity to hold those kind of equipment trucks. And I personally live on a street where my street's been destroyed by development. And I'm just really concerned that you guys will allow this to go on, especially with all of the delays and all of the lies that this developer has provided to you all in the past.
Ms. Lasso,
Where do you
Ms.
prove
Lasso,
that he's actually going to take this?
Ms. Lasso, we really have to keep everything focused on the Wetlands Protection Act. If it's necessary to be able to have access to that wetland area to maintain it, we don't have much choice. And Mr. May, I'm not sure if you know of another, a department or another person, another group that Ms. Lasso might be able to take her concerns to?
Listen, we've taken our concerns to everybody out there, and it seems to be that this developer has connections in the city, and so it keeps getting pushed off and pushed off. So my concerns are that if he made this huge mess without having the Claremont Street access, why can't he clean it up without that access? He's just doing more damage every day and hurting these people over there every day by getting these things continued and not actually doing what he's supposed to do. He's averting any kind of cease and desist orders. He's illegally grinding over there, and he's not just grinding over there to clean up the area. He's selling the materials that he's doing over there. People, please know this is happening. He is performing
Mr.
illegal
Ms.
duties,
Lasso.
and he is
Ms.
profiting
Lasso?
from it.
Okay, Ms.
This,
Lasso,
this ar-
thank
this
you very
ac-
much.
activity is outside of the commission's jurisdiction. I know the law department and the city solicitor have been working on this case for a couple of months now. And that would
It's
be
been
the
more
place
than a
to-
year now, Rob, not
that-
to interrupt you. Listen, I appreciate
that
y'all.
would be
I
the
just wanted to
place
have
to
my,
address
I
those
just wanted to have my
concerns.
words heard. And I just
Okay.
wanted y'all to
Thank
know
you.
what exactly has been going on for these years, that you all have not been involved in everything, but we have. And these
Thank you
people
very
are
much.
Thank you.
there
Thank you,
suffering.
Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Any other comments or questions, please use the raise your hand icon. If you're on the phone, please press *9, and that will allow us to open up your microphone from our end.
Thank you, Rob, by the way, for that clarification.
And at this time, I do not see any additional hands raised.
Okay. Which leaves us with our discussion then, commissioners. We have a choice of either closing the hearing or continuing to the May 23rd meeting.
I would like to make a motion to continue to the May 23rd meeting for this issue.
I'll second that motion to continue.
So, okay, so the motion has been made and seconded to continue to the May 23rd meeting. And I really appreciate the time, Mr. Grady, that you've taken for this. But we really do need to review it just a little bit more, understand it a little bit more. And
Okay, yeah.
perhaps
I
we'll have
understand.
time to resolve it at the next meeting, perhaps. Yeah.
Yep. Everything's submitted and I'm
Yeah.
available for questions.
Okay. Thank you very
And
much.
Also,
right.
also submitted in your file, please remember there's a butter letter, a butter's email. So thank
Oh,
you.
for us, yes, for us to review. Thank you. Yeah, I haven't seen that at all. Thank you. Okay, so that will be continued. Oh, did we vote? I know there was motion made and seconded.
It was, yeah, I don't think you voted.
I don't think we
it was-
voted.
I
So the
didn't have
motion
a
was
vote.
made by Ruby and seconded by Peggy. So a vote, please.
Clay, I.
Curtis, I.
Voris, aye. The motion carries. It will be continued. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Have a good night,
Uh-huh.
everyone.
Take care.
Do have a few additional items that just popped up between our between last week and today that we would like to discuss on the agenda. Yeah, so we actually have two enforcement areas to discuss, and I believe Kyle and Rob may also want to add just a little discussion on the Brockton ordinance. So I don't know if you want to do that at the end, Rob, or do that first, or what you're.
Why don't
At
we
the
go-
end
why
would
don't-
be.
At the end?
would be good.
Yes, please.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we have an enforcement issue at 19 Otis Street. So I'm not sure if that's something you guys have seen, but I will, we have photos in the Google Drive and I will just share my screen quickly. Screen. So the building department made us aware that there was construction of kind of a retaining wall area with a pergola occurring at 19 Otis. It was reported, I believe, by a neighbor.
Wow.
So these are some photos of the area that was constructed. We have a staircase that goes down into the brook.
Where
So
is Otis Street? What is that brook? Do you know?
that's Salisbury Brook.
Is it
Salisbury Brook.
really?
So this was something that we just been made aware of on Thursday, and Kyle had kind of gone out to the site, he had taken these photos, and we have kind of looked at, we put kind of some materials together for preparing an enforcement order and figure that, you know, at this point, since it was such a recent observation and the building department has issued a cease and desist, that we would kind of bring it to the commission and see if you would like to issue an enforcement order that's requiring the restoration of the 25-foot riverfront area, basically restoration of this area to existing conditions. I do want to note as well that it does appear as though this portion of the construction may also be on city-owned property. So it
Yes.
appears that most of it is on city-owned property of the recent construction. So it would basically be a enforcement order requiring the restoration of this area to existing conditions. That would also be inclusive of a surveyed plan to kind of determine where the property actually is in relation to the completed work, as well as having kind of a wetland scientist or, you know, equivalent professional employed to determine what resource areas are present and how they were impacted. And ultimately, this is not something that we could do an after the fact, say, filing or permit on, as this work is not something that would meet the performance standards under the Wetlands Protection Act for any of the resource areas that are present. So this would be some a enforcement order requiring restoration. So I wanted to make the commission aware of that, and yeah, if you have any questions.
And you said it's predominantly on city land, but it is not, this is not a city construct, I assume.
Yeah, correct. It appears that it, from aerial footage, it appears as though I can tell that Salisbury Brook is on the city-owned land, so at least a portion of this construction is as well.
As long as we're sure we know the right owner.
Yes, that we do. I
Right.
know they've issued a cease and desist to that owner.
So the cease and desist has been ordered by the building department? Is that correct?
Correct.
And
Yes.
then we would then order we would issue
We would
an
also-
enforcement order
Enforcement order.
based
Yes.
on, to be able to get everything restored.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'd like to do that.
Mhm.
I'd like
Um,
to know if,
yeah.
when the owner purchased the property, how long ago did they purchase the property? And is that part of the purchase and sale agreement that they're abutting a wetland? Were they aware of
No,
that?
PNSs don't include anything in regards to wetland protection at all whatsoever. Unless
But the
the
deed-
realtor is educated about that
Yeah. process,
that's the only way they know, but it is definitely not required on a purchase and sale agreement. But my
was-
thing is, this looks like common sense. So for me, I would love to issue the enforcement order to be in conjunction with the cease and desist.
Mhm.
And
I
I would
would have to agree
encourage,
with you. This looks pretty blatant, to tell you the truth.
I would encourage the commission to do that also.
Mhm.
So
But
I would
Elise,
make a
could you-
motion
Okay.
to.
Could you show the picture of the ducks while we're here?
Of the
ducks?
what? Oh, yeah, there is the ducks that were, these ones?
They made docks?
Oh, I thought you said ducks.
Oh,
I thought you, no, I thought you said
Ducks.
ducks too. I like the
They
ducks.
clearly knew that this was not waterfront property for them. So
Yes.
at the end of the day, we definitely, like, this is absurd to,
We can
I-
make it waterfront
wow.
property.
I guess that was the thought process.
oh my goodness.
Wow.
Yeah, these
Wow.
are all the photos I have on this one right now.
Yeah.
I'd like the
Okay,
guy
so-
to do the construction of my house. It looks nice, but
Yeah.
not done the right way.
So I do entertain a motion then to issue an enforcement order for unauthorized construction on the riverbank.
I
For
would
Act
second that
19
motion.
Otis. No, that I'm asking for the motion,
Oh.
yeah.
Make a motion to cease and desist any construction on 19 Otis Street and to restore the existing property to the way it was before they started construction.
Ruby?
I second the motion.
So the motion really is to be sure that we, in the issue in the enforcement
Of the
order,
enforcement order. Yep.
right. And to be sure that that construction is stopped and that it gets restored back to its original
State.
pre-construction state.
State.
So that motion has been made and seconded. May I have a vote, please?
Clay, I.
Curtis, I.
Boris, aye. Let's get that enforcement order going.
Right, and I got one more for you. We're full of them today.
When did that
So
one come up?
this one was, I believe, Kyle, was that yesterday?
Yeah, I think I got the call yesterday on this one.
Yeah.
From Ames
Yeah.
Street.
It's been rapid fire. So this one was reported as 84 Ames Street, which I believe is the 82 Ames Street property, which is a property that does currently have an unresolved enforcement order on it. So Kyle did go out and do a site visit, and there's definitely been some earth moving activity occurring. Oh, wrong one. Site photos. So this is basically it's at the corner of Ames and whatever that street is. I apologize, I don't remember at the moment. But they have, yeah, what?
Spark?
Yeah.
Is it Spark? Okay.
Yes, yep. So basically, this was at the corner. This is all within bordering lands subject to flooding, I believe. They had put in a parking lot over in this corner and have had ongoing earthwork going. Let's open up our enforcement order. So this was an enforcement order. It was issued May 2021. And let's see. Yeah, so it was work within bordering land subject to flooding. So it appears as though earth moving activities are still ongoing. And they had essentially kind of just filed a notice of intent and stopped, from my understanding, kind of corresponding with the commission. So this is something that as far as the commission would like to do, we could kind of send a notice of violation. We could issue a second enforcement order requiring them to come to the next meeting. It's kind of up to the commission on what they feel comfortable or what they would like us to look into. Yes, Mr.
I
May.
would
Madam
suggest-
Chair,
Yes, Mr. May.
I would recommend that another cease and desist order be issued, and that whatever else Lee said, but also that you ask the city solicitor to come before the planning commission and
The Conservation
explain
Commission?
the conservation. Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Before the Conservation Commission and explain the city's efforts to enforce those cease and desist orders.
Because that would certainly help us with our ordinance, I'm sure. No, I agree. I agree. It seems ridiculous that these enforcement orders are just ignored pretty much, once it seems that an NOI start, gets going. And then, and then you have how long before you actually have to get a complete certificate of compliance or anything.
It kind of
And
looks
so
to
everything
me
just
like
drags on.
they thought we would forget about it, because that was in 2021. This is now 2023. So I think they thought that if they left enough time that we might forget about it. But I know when Megan was here, we went through a series of what happens if you don't go by the rules. And first of all, there's a letter that goes out, then there's a second letter, and then I think there's a fine applied. So yes, we do need to get a little tough with this group, I think.
Well, and unfortunately, the authority does not have the power to levy fines on their enforcement actions at this point, which is the whole purpose of having a wetlands ordinance and putting some pressure on these folks. but oh, I'm sorry, I'll
That'll be the last item
Get
on
off.
our agenda, right?
I'll get off
That's
my
coming up.
soapbox. Yes.
That's coming up, Rob. Yeah. Okay, so, Kyle or Elise, in your experience, would it be most beneficial to issue another enforcement order? Is that to enforce the first enforcement
Yeah.
order?
I think at this point, I know it probably feels like a bit redundant, but all we can do is kind of keep trying, keep a record of everything we're doing. And then, you know, if we need to down the road, but we'll see where it takes us. But I do think it's worth issuing a second enforcement order for non-compliance, and seeing at the very least if maybe we can get the, you know, owner, applicant, or whoever to kind of
Yes.
come talk to us and see where, you know, what happened, and ideally, hopefully, what we can do to get this resolved finally.
So the next enforcement order would require then that the owner come before the commission at the next meeting in order to
Correct.
address the concerns that have been evidenced, right, by your visit?
Yes. And,
Okay.
you know, discuss the work that they're doing that is unauthorized.
Mhm.
Which is clearing and vegetative removal and such within the borderland subject to flooding.
Okay, so we will need a motion then for that, right? For an
So I
enforcement
make a
order for.
motion that
It's-
we send another enforcement letter, that we request the owner to appear before the Conservation Commission, and that the city solicitor be also requested to come and address this issue.
Do you think that having the city solicitor present at a Concom meeting is the way to go?
I do, because the enforcement orders, I mean, we're issuing them, we're doing what our process is supposed to be. Somebody's gotta explain how do we hold people accountable with the cease and desist, since they manage that. So, I mean, I think having some insight into what that process is, and then them understanding what our process is, we need accountabilities. So I guess that might be the only way we can get the information, or at least get some concise feedback on exactly what the expectations are from us and for the city solicitor, so that we understand how we kind of meet in the middle with these infractions.
Mr. May, do you normally send, once we have enforcement orders and they've gone through several rounds of, okay, they're really not doing anything, then does that entire case just get sent over to legal?
Oh, yes.
That the entire, and it just sits there? Or I'd read something about there not
I'll
being enough.
just,
Go ahead. Sorry.
well, I'll just say that they are sent to legal.
They're sent to legal. But then we don't ever hear anything about what's happening with them. Is there? Okay, why don't we just invite them? That's fine. That's a good thing. I mean, perhaps we could even do it as towards the end of the agenda between us and legal, so that way it's, or not.
Figure out the maybe order of the agenda, kind of sometime on the in between.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can
course.
discuss that too, you know,
It
offline.
could be a commission matter, certainly not tied necessarily to just one enforcement order, but just make it a commission matter perhaps at the end. So that way people that are hearing that are here specifically for other things don't have to stay.
They don't have to wait, but they can
Yeah.
stay if they want to hear it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Does that sound reasonable? Mr.
Yep.
May?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so do we have a motion to issue?
I
Yeah.
had a motion.
And I'm
We didn't have
seconding
a
the
second.
motion. I'm seconding the motion for the enforcement order for the non-compliance of 8284 Ames Street.
Okay, so the motion has been made and seconded to send out another enforcement order for 8284 Ames Street. That motion has been made and seconded. Let's take a vote, please.
I just
Clay,
want to
aye.
add that there is a request to appear before the Conservation Commission included in that letter.
Yes, but I
Correct.
think that should be separate from that enforcement order, because it's not just that enforcement order that the legal department
Fine.
signs. I mean, do you know what I
Well,
mean?
wouldn't we request an owner to come whether or not the enforcement letter was sent? Isn't that also a requirement? Yeah,
the-
Yeah. So it can be a separate request or it can be a part of the order.
I'm sorry, Peggy.
my
Did you-
motion was that it was part of the order.
Yeah.
That the owner, is,
Yes, yes.
Oh,
the
okay, I'm
owner
sorry.
Comes before the Conservation Commission.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, that's fine. I was thinking legal department again.
Oh, yeah.
Getting them confused. I'm sorry. Okay, so the motion has been made and seconded. That the owner be notified to come before the Conservation Commission at the next meeting and for a second enforcement order hearing. Okay, so a vote on that.
Clay, aye.
Curtis, I.
Laura's aye. The motion's been made and carried. Which brings us to the last commission matter, I assume. Which Kyle, do you want to talk about the ordinance committee?
Yeah, sure. I can get us started anyway. So I guess it was last Friday. Joyce, Megan Shave, and I had a Zoom meeting where we kind of discussed our kind of plan going forward with the planned ordinance meeting that was supposed to be taking place tomorrow, where they're going to discuss the new wetlands protection ordinance that Megan put together. So after the three of us met, we decided that that I should reach out to the legal department and also the rest of the Conservation Commission to see who can be in attendance during that meeting tomorrow. And I got a phone call back from Megan Bridges, who is the department head of the legal department with Brockton. And again, I'm still fairly new to all this, and I feel like I was kind of playing the intermediary on the telephone game. But like, my understanding of the whole situation was that Megan Bridges does not approve or like the enforcement action that we have that's been written into the new ordinance for the wetlands protection. She claims that that type of enforcement action is not something that the city is interested in like dealing with, and she thinks that we need to go back to the drawing board on that. Again, this happened yesterday, 2 days before this was supposed to be up for discussion and review. So that's kind of where we ended that. After that, because Rob can't be at this meeting tomorrow, Joyce couldn't be there, and a couple of the other the members of the Conservation Commission also couldn't be there. It would end up basically being Megan Shave versus Megan Bridges discussing this, and you know, not without having any backup on our side. We just decided that we were going to pull it from the agenda from the meeting tomorrow and postpone that to a future date, maybe next month or potentially farther into the future. So that's kind of where things have landed now. I guess we'll let that open for any discussion that anyone else has anything to say. I don't know.
So Kyle, is that the ones where we discussed the fining, doing the
Yeah.
fines, like the costs that we said should, so the city is saying they're not interested in that?
Yes, and so I have not really spoken to Megan Shave much since then, but I think Joyce, she sent us an email very late in
Yeah.
the day today where
It was late, yeah.
Megan suggested that that the city of Brockton actually uses that same enforcement action. It's part of their like sound ordinance. And they use that to enforce the city's sound ordinance. So why that that mechanism is not appropriate for the wetlands ordinance, but it's okay for the sound ordinance, is a question for the legal department, I think.
Correct. That would make sense, because I wouldn't understand why that wouldn't be. Again, how are we holding people accountable if we're trying to protect the wetlands?
Sure. And when I was speaking to Megan Bridges from law, I kind of asked her that question. And again, I'm very new to this. I'm not exactly sure how things have been happening in the past, but it's kind of my understanding that, as we've talked about tonight, when we have these enforcement orders that are ignored over long periods of time, they do just get kind of lost in legal. And Megan Bridges assured me that since COVID has hit in 2020, they've staffed up their legal department from 3 employees to now up to 7. So she made it seem that they have the capacity apparently now to operate within the existing, not really city ordinance, but with the existing framework put out by the Wetlands Protection Act, supposedly. So again, that's something that we can ask when she comes before the board next.
But there is there's no enforcement within the Wetlands Protection Act, the State Wetlands Protection Act at all, right? There's
Not
no,
at the municipal level, really.
Yeah.
For any, like, the municipalities can't levy fines without having the ordinance. So,
Right.
that's
Right.
would be something that would have to be escalated to DEP. So yeah, you're correct on that.
But I thought Megan said that she fashioned our stipulations based on other cities and towns and what they have
Correct.
done to
And I
thought-
enforce their orders. So this isn't something that's impossible.
and
And
Peg,
Brockton is a city.
and Peggy, I do think that was also reviewed by the legal department before it went to the ordinance committee, was it not, Rob? What, didn't the legal department have to go take a look at that before it went to ordinance?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
I'm walking
So
a
I
very
guess,
tight line.
so I guess my concern is, what's the difference from it going to legal when Megan presented it to her having it now? I guess what's changed? And I don't know, I'm confused.
I don't care if it goes to
Confused and
legal.
disappointed, but I mean, I guess if they reviewed it and said it was okay, what's the difference now?
Yeah, and I'm not sure, so that's another question that we could ask Megan Bridges if she comes and attends the next meeting.
I just don't want it to go on and on and on.
Because as a commission, without enforcement, then we have no teeth. Do you know what I'm saying? For any of these, whatever the Mass DEP issues, etc. So if you're an owner or a property owner and you're bordering wetlands and you know that your city is not going to enforce,
Then you build steps right down to the river and you put and you
Exactly.
put a little deck right there and you can put your little lawn chair there.
exactly, that's my point. And they will know this, and then our whole conservation commission is moot at this
That's-
point, So yes, we need some teeth.
Okay. So the only thing is, I hope it doesn't go on for, because we talked about this whole ordinance thing, I would say a year ago,
Yeah.
and then it seemed to just kind of disappear for a while, and then it did come back. Unfortunately, Megan was gone and she had been like the primary scribe of the entire thing, I think, and that makes it more difficult, I think, a little bit. But then again, maybe not, because we can take it up anew. I just don't want to put it off too long. I wouldn't want to see it postponed 6 or 8 more months and then have all these other enforcement orders that are coming up and not being followed through. Yeah. We'll see what happens next month. And the other thing is, the ordinance committee lets you know, like maybe a week and a half before that they're having a meeting. It's like, I would love to go, but I do need lead time to make sure that I'm able to get there, especially since they're in-person meetings. For those of us that are volunteers for such things, our pay grade doesn't allow us to be readily accessible. Okay, Anyone
Is that
else
the
have-
end of the agenda, ma'am?
that's what I was just checking. Does anyone have anything else that they'd like to discuss or bring up, or? Welcome, Kyle.
Woo!
Yes, thank you. Excited to be here.
Okay. Good. Well,
Literally
thank you,
getting his
Isaiah.
feet wet on Otis Street.
Love it.
Isaiah and Road, thank you. BCA, thank you.
Move-
Everyone
Is
have a
there a move
wonderful
to
night.
adjourn?
I
Yeah.
believe there is, yeah, a motion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second the motion.
Thank
I third the
you.
motion. Good night, everyone.
Good night. No
Good night, everyone.
discussion needed.
Good night. Thank you, everyone.